So I put off talking about Cruella until this point because I know we're going to spend a little time on this. Oh, man, this movie. I didn't watch it because I refused to, but I did, like I said, I watched reviews after reviews, read the synopsis. What a train wreck. What a train wreck, and what a perfect example of all of these machinations and MOs that I've been talking about. You've got the split personality. Estella decides to become Cruella. So you've got Estella, mild-mannered, victimized, the world has harmed her, but she just decides to shrug it all off and be Cruella and let her true self shine, and then she can let all of her abilities in the fashion world shine and blah, blah, blah. And she's a villain. She's a criminal. Absolutely a criminal. It doesn't matter that whatever the woman was that she's fighting in this or whatever is obviously very much a criminal too. You don't get to be a criminal back. You don't get to do that. So again, we've got our protagonist of the movie that the film is asking us to be invested in, feel sorry for, to root for, is just doing these horrible things. It's so bad. It's so bad. And the audacity of them to choose Cruella de Vil, one of the most evil villains in Disney. But they chose her because she's a woman. And well, if she's a woman, she can't really be evil. There has to be a reason she did those things. And the reason probably has to be, if not man, then at least the patriarchal system, right? So she is going up against an actual woman, but Emma Thompson's character, I can't remember her name right now, is very much she's what the woke culture would say, oh, well, she's internalized the misogyny, because she's playing their game and she's the corporatist, and it's still the same thing. They would never make a villain film. Their big kick about making movies about villains, they would never make a villain film about Frollo from Hunchback. Never in a million years. Oh, he's a white guy and he's a Christian. I mean, he's a very horrible person, but he's in that corrupt era and corrupt pocket of the Christian church in that age. They would never, ever dream of doing a movie where they try to make him sympathetic or show how he came to be or anything like that. No. They'll do it if it's a woman. They'll do it if it's a minority character. I could see them doing a Scar movie because somehow they sort of think of Scar as either he tends to be a champion for either minorities or LGBT sometimes. It's weird. I've heard some weird things going on with the way people try to appropriate Scar. Villains are just villains. They're villains, and they need to stay villains. Especially these elemental villains. I mean, you can't get more elemental evil than Cruella de Vil, the woman who wants to skin puppies, not because of some deep-seated trauma, because she wants their fur to make a coat. That's all there is to it. It's very simple. She's evil. She's selfish. She's to be fought against. You don't do a movie about, let's delve into why. And by the end of the movie, too, I've heard some people say that it's not even really clear, so is this character that you've ended up with really suddenly going to want to skin puppies? They couldn't even go there. They just saw a character, and this is why the woke culture in particular jumps on Cruella, because she looks different. She looks different. She's got that, look at the cartoon character, for example. She's somebody who would definitely not match the cultural images of beauty. She looks different. She very much matches they're going for the punk era in the film in the 70s, but no, it's very much sort of a woke, I talk about the mental illness haircut. They don't quite have that, but the idea of dyeing your hair 2 different colors and all this kind of stuff. Her image is tailor-made for them. They gravitate towards the villains because that's who they kind of know on some level that they are. So rather than try to be better, let's just glorify the villains so we can just glorify ourselves. Let's just try to make an excuse for everything. No, that's not how life works. So it's not healthy for you as an individual in life. You can't go around making excuses for all of your actions and just I just need to love myself no matter what, and just rise above what the world is doing to me. The world can persecute you in different ways, and people can have baggage and things like that. But if that's all you're focused on, if you're never focusing on, how can you be better? You can't control what other people do to you. You can control how you react. How can you better yourself? But they don't even want to get there. Don't even talk about that, because I'm so, I just need to wallow in my victim points. And this again is the influence of intersectional feminism. This is the I'm just a victim. Everybody look at me, feel sorry for me, tell me affirm how amazing I already am without having to lift a finger to do better. Whether that's body positivity, don't tell me I have to eat better or exercise. Just tell me I'm beautiful and sexy as I am. No, don't tell me that I have to be more altruistic. No. That's the man keeping me down, right? I've just got to indulge in myself and self-care, guys. No, that's not healthy psychology in the real world, and it's absolutely in no way, shape, or form a recipe for a hero story. I talked about in previous videos this attack on the hero's journey, specifically the attack on the American monomyth. Tomorrow morning, I'll release part 2 of that video, the attack on the American monomyth, which is an edited compilation of last week's stream. But I've got part 2 that kind of delves into the Eternals and pulls out some more things about that, which will release tomorrow. But this is their attack on that. So why are they attacking hero stories in particular? Because of all of our mythologies, hero stories, the American monomyth, the hero's journey in general, that is the most dangerous recipe for them. It's a threat. It's the human experience itself. So it's ingrained in our consciousness, and it's what tells people be better. It's what tells people, yeah, let's look at your experience that you've lived in. How can you do that better? Yep, people did horrible things to you, but how can you be better? How can you be better? How can you rise above? How can you maybe not put yourself in that situation or react better when that happens to you? How can you do this? How can you be better? They don't want to hear that. They do not want to hear that. And they've tried to systematically deconstruct all parts of our culture and society. They've tried to, they're trying to reshape everything. It's very much an indoctrination, as I made a video on too, a culture of war, a cultural indoctrination. And the hero story is the biggest threat to them because it's so ingrained, as I've explained, into our human experience. It's so ingrained in who we are. And we have such a visceral response to a good hero's journey story when we see it. Specifically as Americans, we still, no matter how far we've come away from the idea of a meritocracy and good work ethic, and social mobility and all that stuff, no matter how far we've come away from that, because they've tried to push us so far into a Marxist, ridiculous, woke, mentality, it's still there. It's still ingrained in our social fabric because it was so ingrained in the American way and so forth. And they're desperate. They're just beside themselves to do away with it, which is why they're attacking hero stories. And then Disney trying to eat itself, Disney, who's like Disney or hate them. I'm personally a huge fan of classic Disney. I mean, Disney was just, man, they were just something incredibly special. Looking at it from a mythological lens, I get it that everybody didn't like the Disney take on stories. I know. It's kind of funny. I love J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, but it's kind of funny to hear them turn into like the grumpy old Muppets when they talk about Disney sometimes, that's not real dwarves, stuff. But, they weren't American anyway. But looking at it, stepping back and just, whether you like the stories or the Disney touch or not, looking back at American culture and how Disney took, Walt Disney was such a pioneer in this because he recognized there are seminal stories in Western culture and in the human mind. I don't know how much he knew about the hero's journey. I don't know if he was reading Bruno Bettelheim or anything like that, but he understood that these stories were still popular for a reason. These Grimm's fairy tales and whatnot. And even before Grimm got to them, they were popular before Grimm altered them and made them what Grimm wanted to. So Walt Disney decided, well, I'll take them and alter them into this American dream and this American way vision. And Disney, for the longest time, was a huge part of American culture. It was a huge part of American myth lore. I love that. I thought that was so great. Not that every Disney film was wonderful. No, it clinkers all over the place, of course. But for the most part, they were truly, even in their downtimes before the Renaissance, and then certainly through the Renaissance and whatnot in the 90s, I mean, they were really about creating mythology. Like it or hate it, that's what they were about. They weren't about pushing agenda. The current day Disney as we all know here, as we've all talked about, is 100% against that in every way. And they're trying to deconstruct our culture. And that means specifically trying to deconstruct the legacy of Disney. They're desperately trying to deconstruct the legacy of Disney. That's why it just grates on my nerves every time I see somebody post a funny little meme trying to attack Disney, but they cast Mickey Mouse as the villain, because he's the symbol of Disney and area. No, you're playing into their hand. Mickey Mouse is a wonderful symbol, a cultural icon of what Disney used to stand for, and what that a wonderful American myth lore used to be. Don't do that. They love that. They love that when you do a meme that takes Mickey Mouse and tries to degrade him or make him into some sort of symbol for your hatred of Disney. They're very much into tearing down symbols. They're conscious about that. They are consciously trying to tear down symbols because symbols have power. Symbols have great power. That's part of why the superheroes, we respond to them so much, because we respond initially to the hero's journey, that intrinsic human tale that they tap into for us. And then as we get to know the heroes, the symbol of those heroes means a great deal to us. I mean, Superman, that S shield, universally recognized as if not Superman, then a superhero, somebody to save you. I mean, that's a big deal. And they're trying to deconstruct that all over the place. Captain America now, they're trying to deconstruct Captain America. They're desperate to separate Captain America from Steve Rogers. I mean, Steve Rogers, come on. He's a white guy. He's heterosexual. He's a little too American apple pie. We need to take the well-known name of Captain America and associate that with a minority who's going to make the whole mantle all about minority struggles and cultures and blah, 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 blah. No, that's the war they want. They're trying to attack not only our stories, but our symbols, desperately trying to attack our symbols.